So call to order the September 12th, 2025 Traffic Advisory Committee meeting. In attendance from the committee, we have Matt Keeley, myself, Bill Renaud, the town engineer, Lieutenant Joe Anderson. We also have Joe Conway and Kathy Tui. Have you completed all your stuff to be a member today and to vote?
I have not heard anything from Sherry yet.
Okay, all right. So you're just here as a resident.
Yes.
Okie dokie. All right. So let's get going here. Usually Dan and Lois do the Pledge of Allegiance. So somebody want to take the lead on do that?
Sure, I'll take it.
Okay.
Pledge allegiance to the flag, the United States of
States
America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right. So our next item is public engagement. So anybody that would like to address the Traffic Advisory Committee, ideally not for something that's on the agenda, because we'll take questions and comments during that item. Please raise your hand now. Nick Gentile.
Hi there, Nick Gentile, my wife Katie. We live at 28 Miriam Street. We missed the last meeting and we didn't realize that Miriam Street was on the agenda at the time for discussion regarding next steps, ideally around potentially a phase 2 option for our street. We continue to have concerns about just the speeding that happens on our street, and also just wondering what our next options might be, as someone who is commuting into Boston and also walking the street with our dog and our baby. It's just continues to feel pretty unsafe. I've almost been hit numerous times especially walking up that hill on Miriam Street. So just kind of wondering what we can do at this point. I think the speed signs, I watched the video, it sounds like the speed signs did reduce the average speed, but it also in that video it seemed to suggest that those might not be up forever. So just hoping to hear from this committee about what our options are at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I think we were basically looking to observe, right? Joe, that's I believe how we left it at the last meeting, right?
Yeah, it seemed like they had an impact of a few miles per hour, which is pretty good for those signs, because sometimes they're kind of white noise and don't really have the impact that we'd like. But I'm looking at Urban SDK right now, and as of whenever this last purge of data was, we're looking at an 85th percentile speed going from the Main Street side down toward Forest of 27, 28, and 29 miles an hour. So it's improved. It's definitely not where we'd like to have it, but I'm not sure what phase 2 changes we could make there on that street. And typically we would advocate for more permanent structural change for a street that we couldn't get a reduction in, something that was seeing like 10 to 15 miles per hour over the 85th percentile speed, which we're not seeing, but there's definitely those one-off speeds that, especially during rush hour when the train gates come down, you're seeing those faster speeds, and those don't really.
Yeah, during rush hour, it's been really bad. I mean, I've called you guys a few times to have someone come out and observe it. It's not great. And those are times where you have commuters and you also have people walking their dogs. And like I said, especially with that blind spot on that hill, I think that is where I've almost been hit a few times. So, definitely continues to be a major concern. I think it's great that the speed has been reduced, but I think it's just a matter of time until someone gets hit, especially near that hill.
Yeah, it's definitely a challenging street. I don't think there's really much opportunity in the way of sidewalks or anything like that there because of the roadway width and just the nature of the street. But what I can do is, so we have this new system, Urban SDK, and it gives us kind of an up-to-date look at speeds and volumes throughout town. It's a newer system. We're just starting to get into the more proactive use of it. We've been using it more with traffic advisory, and I can narrow it down now that we've got more of a data set to see what time periods would be best for us to be up there, because problem is sometimes we sit up there and we're seeing those 28 mile an hour speeds, and it's
Right.
not enough for us to stop. So I will, I'll be proactive with that and see if there's anything we can do in the meanwhile. And
Okay.
Bill, we'll see what we get for speeds if they start to go up or if they're not really getting much better. You and I can talk offline and see if there's anything maybe engineering wise, but I don't know of many options that present itself right now.
Yeah, do you want to maybe plan to add it as an agenda item before the end of the year? So maybe December item,
Sure, that'd be
just
great.
to do an update? Yeah. All right.
I was wondering, the reservoir is right across the street from us. I mean, that's, I assume, is town-owned land. I mean, would there be a possibility of putting a sidewalk on that? I think it's like a 300 foot stretch of, and it pretty much carries you up the hill. I mean, would that be an option to at least add a sidewalk there to eliminate the concerns of walking up that hill?
Yeah, I mean, I typically we don't want a sidewalk to nowhere, but
Right.
with this situation, let me give it some thought. I don't have sidewalk funds at this point, so we're tapped out on sidewalk extension money at this point. So
Okay.
that would be a town meeting request that I'd have to make. So it would be probably a spring thing at the earliest.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
but I can take a look at it and see.
Yeah,
Maybe
that'd be
it
great.
makes sense if sidewalks might be the solution. Maybe we look at that. I mean, that's
Okay.
we
I
will
know
look.
chicanes were mentioned as well in the last meeting, and
Mhm.
the times we've parked on the street, and I've seen, I think a lot of other neighbors have
Yeah.
been parking on the street. I mean, that does help.
Yeah,
Obviously you have
definitely
those people that are speeding and it's like, do I want to risk my car getting hit? But definitely have noticed that the kind of forced chicanes with cars seem to do the trick as well.
It definitely will. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I'm not sure if like the option of making our street a one-way or anything has been never considered, to eliminate it as a cut through during rush hour, especially. Obviously it is a narrow street, so I don't know if that would create more space for something.
Well, I mean, I think if that's something the neighborhood is interested in,
I think that
and
might be a tough
and you have support from your neighbors, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily object to it per se. I don't know about you, Joe.
The problem I would caution with that, even if everybody was on board, is somebody took it upon themselves to put signage on the other side for when the train gates come down, and it was not approved by us. And you had a traffic backup of people that were starting to take the left and then realized they couldn't, so they were kind of backing out onto Forest Street, almost causing an accident there by that curve. So I for what limited time those were up, we saw some issues with that. Just because Forest Street's has some issues, and the road geometry there is kind of tough. So
One of the many problems you would face with a one-way is you would actually see an increase in speed because there would be no opposing traffic. Two-way
Yep.
traffic actually slows cars.
but I think we should revisit this before the end of the year, Bill, and we'll talk offline a little more about if there's any other options.
Sure. Okay.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. Anybody else for public comment? All right. Seeing no one. Oh, actually, you know what? I skipped meeting minutes. So,
I
item
was
4.
just about to say that.
minutes. What'd you say? You were
I
gonna
was
say
just about to say that if you want to skip it to the end or just do it now.
No, I'll do it now. Sorry about that, folks. So I'll take a motion to approve the meeting minutes from July 25th.
Second.
2025. You gonna make
So
a
moved.
motion? All right. So moved. So Matt, do I get a second, Joe?
Second.
Second, from Joe. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Item 6, Envision Wakefield presentation. VHB is here somewhere. There's Josh. Josh, you should be able to share your screen if you want to get going and introduce yourself.
Excellent.
Cool. So folks, just a little kickoff here. So last meeting we had the section of Envision on Water Street and Main Street in front of the Galvin, as well as the rail to trail. Josh and VHB, they're handling the downtown proper, which also includes Church Street, Common Street, and Lake Street and Spalding. So take it away, sir.
Great, thanks, Bill.
Yeah.
As Bill mentioned, my name's Josh Triarchis from VHP. Been working on this one for a while with Bill and his team. Just to give a quick update as to where we're at. So agenda, just for the items we're going to talk through, I'll give a overview of the current limits, as Bill mentioned, this was split into two separate phases, so the limits of this phase that we're working on and an overview of the project. Touch back on the goals, again, this is the same project when it was the full project, but reiterating the goals. Go through the design process that we've done to date and more recently as we advance towards 25% design. Some of the revisions that have been made since the last time this was presented. And then touch on our next steps and we can answer any questions. So in terms of project limits, this is the northern half of the project as part of the full envision. As Bill mentioned, where the southern half, where it includes Water Street and the rest of Main Street up to the Nahant North intersection. So we began our project limits at Richardson and Lincoln Street, just north of Water Street. And it continues up towards the Upper Common, includes traffic signal reconstruction at Main, Church, and Salem Street, as well as improvements on Common Street, improvements in and around the Rockery, and then even down to Lake Street and Spalding Street as you head towards the lake in the playground area. So just to touch on, again, the goals of this project is to improve circulation and accessibility, create a pedestrian-focused, vibrant streetscape, enhance the cultural identity of the town in this well-known downtown area, improve safety enhancements. Again, I think there's been certainly some pedestrian safety improvements that are really the main focus of this, as well as some of the traffic with a little bit of some confusing traffic patterns and trying to formalize this a bit and reduce and improve the need for where we have crosswalks for pedestrians and as well as bike accommodations. And then making sure we really focus on Main Street parking and occupancy, knowing that this is the downtown business district and trying to maintain as much parking, if not improve and add parking where we can. So to touch on the design process, as I think most of you are aware, this project is being funded through the Mass DOT TIP process, working with the local MPO. It will be using federal funds to construct the project. So what that means is we have to go through the Mass DOT full design review process. And as part of that, when we're in preliminary design, current regulations for Mass DOT require us to go through what's called an intersection control evaluation, or ICE for short. And essentially, we have to look at each of the intersections within our project limits and evaluate the different types of intersection controls that can be used and evaluate them on safety and capacity analysis, and make sure we document why each type of intersection control is used. So as part of that, we can't just say it's a signal today, it has to remain a signal. We have to document why a signal is the best option, or stop, control, etc. So as part of that, we had to look at roundabouts at 3 of the locations that are either stop control today or signalized today. That included Chestnut Street, Lafayette Street, and then at the existing signal at Church and Salem at Main Street, looking at potential roundabout options. And then we also worked with Bill and his team at looking at the potential to make Lafayette a one-way street heading towards Town Hall and creating all traffic to stay on Church Street towards Main Street. And I believe that may have been presented previously, but I can run through that, just an overview. And then I'll touch on some of the design revisions that we've gone through since I believe this was last presented, and what we're working on our current 25%. So this is a quick overview, as I mentioned, of the roundabout options we looked at. This is at Center Street and Chestnut Street at Main Street. Again, today, Chestnut Street and Center Street are stop controlled. So we looked at what this would entail to have this as a roundabout. Again, safety improvements for sure, but it does have major impacts to some of the parking in here. And understanding this is the downtown area, parking is a premium. So this does not seem to be a feasible solution. At Lafayette and Crescent Street, again, just the size of the roundabout here really has some significant impacts to abutting private properties and the Upper Common as well. So again, this does not seem to be a feasible solution. And then the roundabout at Church and Salem Street, just given how close these intersections are today, it operates as one intersection with a traffic signal. Given the proximity of some of the residential homes here, this really would have to be one larger roundabout to make this work. So the other option we looked at was creating this as what we call a peanut roundabout, that would allow us to hit all the intersecting streets. Again, the size of this just really starts to balloon up, and has some significant impacts to the lower common and the upper common as well. So, as mentioned in working with Mass DOT, these designs were determined not to be feasible solutions. Again, significant impacts to parking. I think we lost at least 19, if not more, parking spaces with those layouts. Significant right-of-way impacts, and any impacts that we would have with the upper common or lower common is potential protected Article 97 land, which would be a lengthy process and would be difficult to get approved given that other options are available. So for those reasons, we are sticking with the preliminary design that we had previously, with keeping stop control on the side streets for Center Street and Chestnut Street, and then stop control at Lafayette and Crescent Street, and then maintaining a traffic signal at Church and Salem Street. And then the other option, I believe, Bill, you may have presented this at a previous meeting, but one of the options we looked at working with the DPW in the engineering office was making Lafayette a one-way street towards the town hall. And essentially what that would do is keep traffic on Church Street and require right turns onto Main Street rather than coming down Common Street as they do today. The issues we found with this is, one, the added right turn lane does impact the upper common. There's some large mature trees there that would be impacted and would have to be removed. And again, given the volume of traffic and the number of legs of this intersection, the queues at the stop here with all the added traffic that now is going through to Salem Street or continuing north on Main Street, that would also be going south on Main Street. The queues end up backing up past Lake Street and starts to have impacts to the intersection at Lake and Common Street. So it determined to be not a favorable solution, and ideally we're going to keep the way we have it today with a two-way traffic on Common Street, and keeping two-way on Lafayette and maintaining access to Main Street by coming down Common Street.
Yeah, so I believe that was part of your original design, right? So that wasn't something I had asked for, right? To look
It
at.
was something we had asked to look at. This wasn't the original design. It was something we looked at as an option.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Just to try to improve some circulation and see if we could get, a direct access to Main Street.
Okay.
So this is a quick overview of some of the updates that we've made as to the previous design that was originally presented. This area is at the Rockery, again, looking to preserve and enhance access to the Rockery as much as we can. The original design included shared use path that, again, using the existing paths within the upper common, this leg was widened and the shared use path came along the parking through here. Parallel spots were shown on both. And I guess actually to give a quick overview, just for a reminder of how traffic is intended to operate with this design. Traffic coming up Common Street would take a left onto Lafayette and then a right onto Main Street. Common Street in this stretch through here, this will be a raised, more of a parking area. So through traffic is not intended to be coming through Common Street as it does today. So this would be a separate area really intended for parking to get access to the downtown area, provide access in and around the Rockery, and as well as bike access through here into where we have the one-way bike lanes in each direction heading up towards the downtown. So with the revisions, we're able to add a few additional parking spaces with the angle parking through here. The shared use path is pushed closer to Main Street, just to allow this to be more of a pedestrian friendly area and keep bike traffic closer to the road. Bike traffic on the rest of the downtown is split with one-way bike lanes. So at the Yale Street intersection, this would be where bikes would cross and use the shared use path and continuing into the upper common. We revised the geometry in here to make this a little bit more of a smoother, straight through intersection. Just to really formalize this a little bit. And then for the bike traffic as well, to make this more of a straight shot rather than coming up and around and then back over. And then this is and we're turned a little bit, but the lake is to the north. Main Street coming through here. Again, most of this is similar to what was previously presented, where this will be maintained as a signalized intersection. We are adding the shared use path to continue bike traffic in and around the lake. Working with Mass DOT as part of their complete street process, sidewalks are required on both sides, so we are adding a sidewalk within the layout of Church Street, so no impacts intended to the upper common, but adding a sidewalk along the south side of Church Street. And then again, this is not a change from previous, but just maintaining head-in parking on Lake Street or Lake Avenue. Again, just today with the angle parking to get out, people have to come down and go around and turn around in the residential neighborhood. So by adding these as head-in parking, ideally this allows people to pull in and then back up and leave without going down and turning around. So next steps and design coordination. One of the big things we've been talking with Bill about is beginning our right-of-way process. Certain parts of the upper common and lower common are potentially going to require Article 97 legislation. As part of that, the upper common, given the historic nature of this area, there is limited layouts of the roadway for Main Street and Common Street. So we'll be looking to create the actual layout to define the limits of the park and the limits of the roadway, and record those layouts. And then coordinate with Mass DOT and the Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs as to what needs to be approved in the process for any Article 97 impacts. As part of the 25% design submission, that's something we're continuing to work on. We're going to work with Mass DOT and hold a project development public input meeting sometime in October. We still need to work on scheduling that. We'll make revisions based on that meeting and submit our 25% design, hoping for late October or early November. From there, Mass DOT will have a 90-day review period. So looking to the early 2026, where we can then have a formal Mass DOT design public hearing. Looking to anticipate that in March and April of 26. And as of right now, the project is not currently funded on the Mass DOT, the MPO tip. We are looking to work by getting this 25% submission in, getting this project back on the tip for program for federal funding. Right now, there's a readiness meeting in the end of the year that we're looking to present and get this information on to get this back on the tip. And hoping with evaluations coming in January that this project will be back on in programs. So full anticipated project schedule, as I mentioned, submit 25% this fall, public hearing in the spring. We'd be looking to do full 75% design and file all of our environmental permits and any of the Article 97 permitting by the end of the year 26 or early 2027. Our 100% design would be towards the end of 2027, and then final plan specs and estimate for advertisement would be for summer of 2028, and then ideally, Mass DOT would be able to advertise the project in fall of 2028. Again, this is working with the MPO and making sure we can get the project programmed, but that is at least the goal that we're going to be pushing towards. So with that, I guess I'll open it up to any questions.
Just one sec, Josh. So, and just so you folks all know, so we have funding up to the 75% design at this point. So we're going to be using an earmark to get them up to 75% design. And at some point, I'll be looking at town meeting to go for some additional funds. So just as a heads up, so everybody knows that. All right. Any questions?
Yeah, Bill, John County.
Hey, John, how are you?
Good. I'd like a further explanation of the bike path that's gonna go through the upper common.
Yes,
And
that is the intent. I actually have a,
Using the existing path that's there.
correct. There's existing, I believe it's a 10 or 12-foot path today. So the intent would be to continue to use these to keep bikes off the roadway, and this would be the where bikes are intended to go.
what happens to the bikes when, say I'm coming from downtown towards Salem Street? What happens to the bikes when we hit Main Street around the lake?
So right now, bikes would have to enter at the signalized intersection and continue on Main Street. We do open this up to allow, I know, Bill, we had talked about potential, again, looking at continuing shared use path around the lake. I know that's not anything part of this project, but
Yeah, it's not approved or anything like that.
yeah, exactly.
Something in
So
the potential, but we have to include bike accommodations within the limits of the project. So that's
Yep.
the intent here to get.
yeah, so exactly, that's the intent here. So the bikes would have to enter the roadway at the signal, either using the push buttons or entering and then traveling with the road public within the roadway as they do today.
Well, I want to mention, I'm not a voting member of this committee but my concerns are not only with this, but as it relates to Main Street going towards Galvin. I just think to accommodate bike paths, we're making it parallel parking instead of angle parking. And I think we're gonna hurt the businesses down in the square, and I only want to make sure that we are gonna make presentations to the Chamber of Commerce and the Economic Development Committee. So I want their input. I'm not singly gonna say, hey, I'm gonna stop this, or I'm gonna fight this. I certainly couldn't. I'm only one member of council. But I want to hear what they have to say about this, and the fact that, people assume now that you take one step, you have to take the next. So I don't understand how we're gonna argue and try to favor the whole issue that we're gonna put a bike path on Main Street where it won't fit. So that's my whole concern. I'm looking at the whole project and the assumption that, well, if we're gonna put a bike path that far, we've got to go on to the next step of the next step. And Bill, I don't know how this happens, but I want to make sure that our chamber has looked at this completely. I think the parking, we already brought up the issue of the parking at Sunny No-Nos, but the more I think about it, I take the right-hand turn coming off Main Street onto Water Street all the time. And the people going into angle parking to drop at the dance studio and then go into Hart's Hardware are going to be totally impacted by this. And I believe
that's the other project, right, John? So, but I get your point. Yeah, I mean, you made that point at the meeting as well, at the council meeting.
It's one thing leads to the other. And so I'm hoping that we can arrange something soon to make sure we have the input from all of the people who are affected. Thank you.
Yep. No, understood. Thank you, John.
Couple of quick things, Bill. First is, Joshua, is there any plans to include a protected phase for Main Street northbound at Salem and Church Street? And I don't know if it warrants it or not based on the volumes, but a consistent complaint that I received when Common Street was turned into a one-way is that they're kind of waiting in queue to take that left onto Church Street from Main Street northbound because they don't have a protected phase there. So
you just so I understand, coming up Main Street and taking a left onto Church.
correct.
That's something we can look at. There is
And I don't even know if the volumes warrant it, but that's the complaint that we've received. And I think at peak times you could see where, a short protected phase would help. It may not be warranted at all times, and I don't know what the requirements are, but just something that I want to echo from what we've received there. So if you could look into that, that would be great.
Sure. Yeah, we can look at to see if this warrants it, and then if we can fit something.
The other point to Councilor County's point is I definitely want to try to advocate as much as we can to increase the parking. And I know that there's, you have to look at this as big picture, and I know there's a lot of requirements to get this project underway. But we started a parking enforcement program to try to turn over the parking in the downtown area for the businesses, and it's been as successful as it can be. People do comply for the most part with the time restrictions there, but there's limitations with parking, and I think it affects the business community, and it's a constant it's constant upkeep. And if that parking enforcement went away, we would see the issues that we saw years ago again. So they're out there more as a presence. They don't even have to write a lot of tickets now, which is a good thing. But if they went away, there would be a significant issue there. So if you look at Common Street at Yale, I don't disagree with making that a one-way, and I see that it adds one extra space. But the problem is where those curb extensions are at Yale. I like them, and I like that it does create more of a sense of kind of like an on-street parking lot type deal. I'll call it, right. It kind of gives that sense of like this really isn't a throughway. It's really just a kind of a municipal parking area. But right now, even though it's probably illegal parking because it's too close to the corner, there is probably 2 to 3 spots sneak in at that corner of Yale Ave right now, especially when Artichokes is busy, the restaurant there, and so on and so forth. And I get that we shouldn't be factoring in illegal or close to illegal parking, but those are going to be reduced by that. Even though I do agree with the design, you're really not adding one additional space. You're kind of probably where you are, if not one short. So just something. And I don't know how you'd even resolve that, but just big picture with the downtown area, wherever we can increase parking, I think it needs to be done. And I don't know how you do that with accommodating the bike lanes. It may be a challenge that just this is the best it can get.
So when we started the project back a few years ago, VHB did a whole parking study of the downtown, right? So that's half the reason why you have this parking lot that's here, and then the other angled spaces in front of Town Hall was to increase overall parking downtown. They're also looking at, Josh, which street was it, to make a one-way that would allow us to add parking within that roadway on the other side.
Yeah, what was I think Princess Street was supposed.
Was that what it was? Princess Street? Yeah.
And is that
so that's intended to offset the loss. And if I recall, I thought we still had a net increase here by like a space or two is what we had, right, Josh? I'm misremembering that, but
we were close. I don't know if we were adding, but I do know we were close. But you're right. That was dependent on changing some of the traffic patterns to be one way. I guess we have to discuss if that's something we do want to move forward with. We can look at adding that.
I mean, I think the feedback we got from the public meetings was that that's what we were going to do. So that's the intent.
Yep.
If I can just go back, Josh, can I just go back to Joe's question about the Main Street lead phase for a second? Because Joe, I think we did look at that a few years ago. Question for Josh was, are you maintaining the existing signal equipment, or is it going to be all new equipment?
It's going to be all new equipment. Yeah, it's all replaced.
Yeah, so Joe, it may not necessarily be a warrant issue. I mean, if it's something that improves the overall operations and safety, that would just need to be accommodated in the equipment. So if it's all new equipment, that's something that can be built in if it's beneficial for the overall intersection.
And you're right, Matt. That may have been when we discussed it before. When we got some complaints, I think it was old equipment that we couldn't retrofit.
Yeah, and that's something we wanted to just leave as a green ball for a left turn lead. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
Cool.
That's all I have. I think overall, I'd like to see at some point whether there's a net gain or whether we maintain parking. But as this progresses,
we'll make sure. So we're going to have a public meeting on this probably late October, early November. And I'll make sure that we have that parking information.
Yeah, we can work to make sure that's part of the presentation, so we can explain exactly where we are adding and losing spaces. And I will say, to your point, there are a number of spaces that aren't today. They're so close to the existing intersections. Unfortunately, with reconstructing this, we do have to meet current standards. So some of these parking spaces closer to the intersections have to be pulled back with some of the bump outs. And then unfortunately with the bike lanes, I totally understand people not being in favor because they may lose parking spaces, but with the type of funding that this is being used with federal funding and going through Mass DOT, as part of using that funds, we do have to accommodate bikes, so.
Sure, and I'm not against the bike lanes, I just
Yeah.
know it's a challenge to
Yeah.
increase parking and accommodate the bike lanes, so you know.
Totally, yeah, it's
Design
working it's working the balance of just trying to make everything work as best we can, and we're gonna continue to do that, and working with Mass DOT and their reviewers in the town, and just see us to definitely improve and add as much parking as we can.
Yeah.
And overall, I do like the design and I do like the bump outs. I think, you know, they improve safety, they improve the crossing distances. They're definitely going to be a huge improvement for the downtown. It's just because we're changing that, we're going to lose some parking that exists because of that. And I'm all for it, but you know, wherever we can make up that that parking would be definitely appreciated.
Yep, understood.
Bill, John County,
Hey, John. Go ahead.
this bothers me in the sense that we keep on bringing up issues and our concerns. But what I hear is that to get money, we have to put the bike paths in, whether the townspeople like them or not. And that's the major issue. That's the elephant in the room here. And
Without a doubt.
and we
Without
keep
a
on
doubt.
we keep on moving down section by section. We keep on moving down, and just after a period of time, people assume that it's going to happen. I want to make sure that we get the main question.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with you. Yeah, I mean, I
The
think.
question is, do you want to give up this so that we can get this funding? Because otherwise, we're wasting our time here designing stuff that's not going to work. The townspeople aren't for it. I know I'm not going to dictate what it is. I only have one vote in the council, but I think we have to have the Chamber of Commerce. You know, at the last meeting when we discussed it, one of our councils brought up the issue, and the more I thought about it, if I'm taking a right-hand turn onto Water Street, and I turn in front of Hart's Hardware, try to get in there on parallel parking is going to be impossible. Now, where are people going to park across the street and they're going to pick up bundles of grass, seeds and everything yet, a bundle of cement or any other heavy product? We can have people on two-wheelers going from Hart's Hardware, one of our anchors of the community, across Main Street to a parking spot. I don't see how that can possibly work. And the dance studio is going to really have some problems, because I watch the mothers are dropping their kids off there all the time, and they're not going to drop them off down the street. So my main issue here is, we keep on planning one plan after the other, one section after the other. But what I heard from Joshua, and I appreciate your honesty, we either accept the bike pass, or we're not going to get funded. So I honestly think that's the main issue here.
Oh, without a doubt. So just so you understand, so this whole project started prior to me being here. So the contract was signed. Steve signed the contract. It was Dombrowski at the time that was really pushing for this to get done. And this was one giant project. This wasn't separated. So in order to get the funding, we had to separate it, because, honestly, this would have been a $65 million project, which never would have been put on the tip. So, it's digestible around 30 million a piece, and that's where we're at. So that's what's going on. I mean, if this isn't something that the community wants, John, I mean, from my perspective, that's fine. I mean, we would just reconstruct the stuff with town funds and eliminate the bike lanes and eliminate all that. But if the town wants the funding and wants to do this whole plan, we have to include them. So it's a decision point for sure. But, I think it was already vetted, a few years ago when I was here. I mean, VHB had how many meetings, Josh?
Yeah.
6 or 7
I
of them?
was gonna say, yeah, close.
Yeah, we had a whole slew of these meetings, and, folks were, nothing's really changed from that original proposal.
No,
And we tightened up some stuff, but that's about it. It's really the same process that went through iterations. That's why the center islands are there. There's a whole bunch of stuff that got changed based on public input, but there was not a consensus to not have bike lanes and not have this move forward. So if that's a change in the community's opinion, then we make that change and decide not to move forward with it. And that's okay.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting that you guys, you're doing what you're doing. I think what happens is, you know, just recently I asked my local paper boy, how many people get the item in our neighborhood? There's only 15 local newspapers being distributed in 100 homes, okay? Not everybody's in tune with the internet.
Yep.
There are special groups that have their own internet connections on Facebook or what have you. So initially, some of the citizens probably didn't even know this was going on. Okay, it's tough to get the information out to the folks until all of a sudden reality comes. And the reality comes when they say, wait a minute, what are you doing? And you guys did a phenomenal job on trying to get to them, and I understand that. I'm not criticizing the process. The bottom line is people aren't hearing it. And then once you start to do something, people come out of the woodwork. And that's life. I appreciate it.
Definitely a challenge. Yeah.
I think the key here to me is the Chamber of Commerce and the Economic Development Council. And here, I want to hear their logic on it. I want to hear what Lenny Hart's family feels about this. I want to know what the liquor store feels about this. And we already know what Sunny No means. So if all of this impact affects their businesses downtown, now you're going to reach out to the people, and people are going to understand that. And now they're going to, instead of waiting, let's get the answer ahead of time, so we're all on the same page. That's all I'm asking.
Okay, understood. I have reached out to them. They weren't interested in bringing the other section of the Envision, but if you want to talk to the chair, John, and see if that's something they want. I mean, I asked to get on the meeting with them, and they weren't interested. The Economic Development Council wasn't, or committee, whatever they are, wasn't interested in having us go there. So I'm happy to go though.
Thank you. I will reach out myself and see that. I appreciate you made the effort. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you. Committee, anybody else will have some comments?
Nope, I'm good.
Public, any comments? All right, seeing none, I think we're good. Josh, thank you very much.
All right, thank you, everyone.
This will be going to the town council on the 22nd for similar presentation. And then we're going to have a public meeting on this, as we move this forward. For both projects, it'll be one large meeting with both consultants there to present and answer questions for everybody. So that's coming up down the pipeline. Thanks, Josh.
That's good. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Great. All right. Where am I? Back to my agenda. Where'd my agenda go? There we are. Okay, Melrose Ave, item 7. So citizen request for a no parking here to corner. So basically my understanding is that there has been a concern on folks parking towards the end of Melrose Ave by Oak Street. So folks turning into folks turning into Melrose have an issue coming off of Oak, and they would like to have a no parking here to corner. Does anybody want to speak to that? All right, Karen. Oh, you're on mute, Karen.
Hi, you figured I would know how to do Zoom by now. Anyways, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm here to argue against the parking signs. I live at 136 Oak Street. It's completely unnecessary because even if somebody's parking on the street, there's still enough room for somebody to get by without a problem. You can pull onto Oak Street and have, you can see onto it. If you're coming out of Melrose, you can see onto it. If you're going in, you can see. It's never been an issue before. And I'm not sure what's going on with that area because, all of a sudden they paved a sidewalk there. So, because I used to park right across. I'm sorry?
Yeah, the town did the sidewalk. That was a request from some residents in that area. They didn't have a safe way to get across the roadway. So we looked at a small sidewalk extension and pushed them further to be in a location where there was good sight distance. So that was a town project.
Right, yeah, no, I understand that, and I know that there's nothing, that I can do about it. It just, it just sucks. It sucked for me because, in my appraisal, it said that I had off-street parking, and across from where, my house is, there was obviously a cutout for people to park there. Which, like I said, when I bought the house, there was that. I wouldn't have bought in the house if I didn't think that there was any parking around there, because in my driveway, I only have space for one car, and, I have two cars. And I wouldn't have bought it. And when somebody looks to buy my house, it's going to reduce the value of the home because, somebody looking at it, if they're like, oh, there's only one parking space and nowhere else to park around there, the sale of the house is going to have to reflect that. They're either not going to look at it or have it at, I'm going to have to reduce the amount. Even when they were the town was working on that sidewalk, there was people, the workers were parked there and you were still able to get around.
So this isn't affecting the parking area that's on Oak Street. This is on the roadway itself only. That's what's being asked for us.
Right, I understand that, but in order to get to that parking across from on Oak Street, you have to drive over the sidewalk. And for instance, I have a hybrid, and so my car is very top, front heavy, and so to have to go drive over a sidewalk multiple times a day, you know what I mean? Like it affects the suspension. It could cause like balance, wear and tear. So to be able, like where I park, and you're familiar with the area that they're talking about, is I'm allowed to park on the left side of where the mailboxes are. And again, you can see around it. There's absolutely, there isn't an issue with like sight onto Oak Street. So I'm not.
But you park in the gravel area behind the sidewalk still though, right? You just come off of Melrose and get on that way, or you go over the sidewalk, right? Isn't that what you're doing?
Yeah, I've been parking on the left side, so on the Melrose side of Oak Street. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's not what's being asked here. This is for folks that are parking on the roadway itself.
Okay, that was my question.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
that's what the request was to us, and it was for a no parking here to corner on the roadway itself.
So
and
we
again,
are talking.
Melrose Terrace is private. One second, Michelle. I'll get to you.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No problem. I just want to make sure everybody understands what we're talking about. That's all. So it's for the roadway itself. Again, Melrose is a private way. We're looking at the no park to be at the back of, the Oak Street right of way that we have, control over. And then, if people want to park beyond that, I mean, that's a private property discussion between the folks that live there because it's a private road and you. And if you're parking in Oak Street, we're allowing it. So that's not restricting this. And that's not what this is doing at all. So I think your issue is covered. I don't think this affects you from my understanding of what you do.
Okay, I guess I just don't understand like how far. I don't know. The parking from here to corner, I guess, is what confused me,
Bill,
or what I was thinking.
I think it might help if we pull up the drawing.
Yeah, sure. Eric, do you have that, or do you want me to pull it up? Nope, you're in mute.
Yes, I have it.
All right, thank you.
Can you, where's the share screen?
Yeah, you should be good to go.
So
Hi, I'm not sure if I can add.
Karen, I didn't get your address either, just for the record.
Oh, it's 136 Oak Street.
Thanks. All right. So, Eric, you want to zoom that in a little bit just to kind of show the area. Yeah, so you have a parking area behind the sidewalk. We had talked about that when we were constructing the sidewalk. You had spoke with Steve Mayo as well, and we were leaving that. This isn't affecting that use. The question is for Melrose Ave because it's so small width-wise that folks were parking basically kind of where it says Melrose on the plan on the right-hand side, and folks couldn't pull into the street is what the complaint was. And that's why this is being asked to be done.
Hi, could I at this point just ask, so basically.
Michelle, your name and address, please.
I'm sorry, Michelle Coolahan, 140 Oak Street.
Great, thank you.
So as we're looking at the gravelled section that's new, that is where we continue to park, there are 3 gravel sections, 3 spots to the right of the mailboxes on the corner of Oak. There's 1 gravel spot to the left of the mailbox, and then starts the paved road. You're talking paved road from some point to the corner of Oak, and that's the only adjustment that you're asking about?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And do you, about how far up Melrose Ave are we talking to put that sign?
It's about, what I'd say, Eric,
It's
15,
20 feet,
or
maybe?
so.
it's about 20 feet.
20
Okay.
feet.
Okay, okay, okay.
Mr. Chair, just as a point of information, without signage, we can still issue parking tickets for parking within 20 feet of an intersection. We don't always do it, but we can. So this is just reaffirming what the basic rules of the road, that you can't park within 20 feet of an intersection on a narrow road on town-owned land. And I think actually to the resident's point, if a car was parked there on town-owned land in that 20 feet, it would restrict them from getting to that gravel area, or at least from that side. They could still go over the curb, but to Karen's point, they may not want to go over the curb. They may want to pull in from Melrose itself. So it would free up the sightline visibility on both sides to have that, and it would reaffirm that you can't park there. Typically, we put those signs in where people are doing it and it's becoming a problem, and we want to have make sure that they have notice before we start issuing tickets. But we can do it with other tickets. We just don't like to. Well,
keep in mind the only section you'd be able to do is the section in where Oak Street cuts across, because Melrose is private. So
correct.
So we can't issue tickets on Melrose Ave because that's a private road.
Yep, just that little bit of asphalt there.
Yep, exactly.
Okay, so we keep our 4 spots as is, and we just restrict the Melrose Ave parking on pavement.
On pavement, yeah, correct.
Okay, and we can park on Melrose Street.
Melrose Ave?
Melrose Ave.
That's a question to the residents of Melrose Ave. So they have the interest in it. The town has no.
So the
it's
town
private,
can't take it.
I can't do anything on it. So it's all between you folks and the folks on Melrose Ave. If you want to talk to those people and work that out, that you can definitely do that.
Okay, all right.
Jennifer Grady, name and address, please.
Hi, yep, Jennifer Grady from 6 Melrose Ave. Just a question, just for my understanding, because it never has been clear. Are the graveled spots, are those privately owned spots for folks on Oak Street?
Nope.
Oh, it's that all the gravel parking is town land?
It's in the town right away. So we didn't remove it when we put the sidewalk in because folks were using it.
Okay.
In general, we're going to let folks park on a road if it's safe and there's not an impact. There's not really a sight distance problem per se, so we were good with putting it back. Ms. Tyler had asked us to make sure that it's still there. We kept it, so we weren't planning to necessarily remove it.
Got it.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I would say just to speak up for the sidewalk, it's been incredibly useful for multiple users. I think there's a lot of folks with dogs and young kids, and I think getting that sidewalk in there has been fantastic. I do think just keeping some distance, like, the no parking from here to corner will be incredibly useful, because I think you know, as long as the cars are far enough into the gravel, you can pull out and see around, but it is incredibly difficult when there's a car on Melrose Ave itself, not in the gravel. When you're pulling out onto Oak Street, or even when you're coming from Oak Street and pulling on to Melrose Ave to see if another car is coming out. So I've had a couple close calls. So I think just for visibility and safety, I'm for putting in that sign there, especially just if folks are visiting and they don't know, just as a courtesy thing.
Okay. Any other comments? I think everyone seems to be in consensus here on this one.
Hopefully I can speak. This is
Who are you? Could you give me your name and address, please?
Lynette O'Brien, 15 Melrose Avenue.
Hello, Lynette.
And I do agree with everything that Jen just said. And if I can add again, you know, we have had parking on Melrose Ave, you know, if say, we know they're not, you know, our houses, whatever, like if they have like a fun party or something like that, and that's okay on a limited basis, right? But as you said, Melrose Ave is very, very narrow, and I'm telling you, fire trucks, garbage trucks, anybody, you know what I mean? Like that could limit if we have a continuous parking on both sides. But you know, again, I agree with the sidewalk has been amazing, and people are actually stopping when we go to cross the street as a consistent user, as well as that no stopping sign will help with the visibility, because if a car is there, we can't see going in or going out sometimes. And never mind when you add the winter, right? So, in leaves. So, thank you. Thank you.
Terrific. All right. Anybody else that wants to speak? All right, hearing nobody. Folks, sounds like we have consensus on this. Can I get a motion to approve the no parking signs here at the corner on Melrose, at the back of the Oak Street right away on Melrose Ave?
Like to make a
So-
motion. Yep.
Go ahead, Jeff.
I'd like to make a motion that we add no parking here to corner signs on Melrose Ave at the intersection of Oak Street, 20 feet back from Oak Street, or as far as the town-owned right-of-way allows.
Second.
All right, second. All in. Let's do a roll call vote. Let's see. Matt.
Aye.
Joe.
Aye.
Who else do we have that's on here? Joe Conway. You're here. All right. I'm a yes, and I think that's all we have for commission members that are on. So, committee members that are on. All right. So that passes unanimously. Folks, appreciate your input. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Terrific. All right, moving on. So Parker Road and Elm Street. We received a resident inquiry about modifying the control in that intersection. Currently, it's kind of a little non-traditional. We have a stop sign and a yield sign configuration that's a little wonky. Our thought was the request was to have a three-way stop there. So we were going to look into traffic counts and try to see, you know, what movements are where and how all that's going to work. So our proposal would be table this to a future meeting, and then do a traffic study here to see what makes sense and if it would be supported with a warrant. Does that sound good to all of us?
It sounds good.
Yeah,
definitely need some
Definitely
more.
need to see the counts. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So we'll move forward with that. Again, we currently don't have budgets for the traffic advisory committee here, so I'm going to be looking to try to get one fairly soon here, so we have money to at least do some of these traffic studies that we have kind of in the queue. So we have a handful of them at this point now. So we'd like to do that, and then we'd also look at you know, some money to start implementing some of these things. Obviously, with the crosswalks, those cost money. The beacons, those cost money. So we need funding to be able to do these things. Okie dokes. So Salem Street I-95 off ramp. Moving on to item 9. So we have a commercial request from AL Prime for a guide sign to be added at the bottom of the off ramp of 93. That would be south. It's gone through Mass DOT approval. So basically, they're waiting for the town to make a decision on this. Obviously, all signs are going to the town council here, so we're, I'm figuring here that we're looking at this from a technical standpoint, sign location, that type of stuff. So, so Eric, do you want to pull up the plan on that one for me, please? So this is the request in the packet that we received. So if you're looking, this is on Audubon / Pleasure Island Road as it goes under the highway. The request is to have a right-hand arrow here to notify folks of where AL Prime is. From my perspective, I mean, it's not a problem engineering-wise. They do guide signs all over the place. This is in the Mass DOT right away. They just want us to bless it. From an engineering standpoint, I have no concerns. The council, I think, may have some concerns considering the other two gas stations that are businesses in town aren't being represented here. So obviously that's not necessarily the best way to do it, but I think that's kind of their purview rather than the Traffic Advisory Committee. But I'm opening it up to discussion.
Bill, I'll hold off until we have it before the council. But I'm amused at the fact that when we're taking that exit,
yep,
it tells you that Pleasure Island Road is to the right, when it's actually to the left.
No, I'm very well aware of that. I've now called them about it. So yeah, it's definitely incorrect. I've called them about it multiple times. I had a resident that brought it up as well.
Bill, I think I would be a no for this. We've never approved any guide signs like this before. I think if the Prime gas station was the only one in like a half-mile radius of getting off the highway that you couldn't easily find one, I think it would be important for people getting off the highway to be able to locate it. But there's two gas stations right there. We've never approved any signage like this before. We try to keep signage to a minimum where possible.
Yep.
And to be honest, the Prime is a logistical nightmare as it is. I think when they reconfigured that gas station and rebuilt it, they did a really nice job with the building, and they cleaned up that area. But it just they were trying to do too much on a small space, and I know that's a ZBA decision. And I know that they probably looked at that in many different ways, but it creates a lot of traffic issues as it is right there with people waiting in queue on Salem Street to have a pump available and people pulling out without looking, was driving around to try to find an available pump with really not a lot of off-street real estate to do so. It's a mess there, and I'm just a no vote for the signage.
I would probably abstain on this one, Bill. Like I said, it's not an engineering issue, so it's not something I feel like I should opine on.
Okay. Okay. John, do you think we would still bring this to you folks, or would you prefer us to just table it here and hold off?
That's up to you, folks. I'm not a voting member, as you know, and
Yep.
That's up to you. It's I don't want to, I don't think the council would appreciate me saying what they might think. So
no, I'm not. That's not what I'm asking. I'm asking if you think we should bring it to the council still, even though we're not supportive of it.
I know I'm very supportive of you guys, you folks. I shouldn't use the term guys, but you folks making the decisions.
Okay, terrific. Thank you. I appreciate that. All right, so I say we table this discussion, if that makes sense to everybody.
I would agree.
Okay.
Agreed.
All right, I don't think we need to take a vote on that. We'll just table it for now. We'll reach back out to them and explain the concerns. Moving on. So Oak Street Green and Greenwood Ave. So this is a project that that we had on our that we had identified in the bike and ped plan. A bunch of folks in the neighborhood had weighed in. We've had about 3 or 4 meetings out there with different people. We've reviewed this here. We started with traffic studies at the Traffic Advisory Committee. We came up with some conceptual designs, moved it forward to Mass DOT, and we're able to get grant funding for this. So this is a project that wouldn't be tax through the tax levy. This would be through Mass DOT. Tim, you want to maybe bring up the plan here?
Yeah, do you want the original plans or do you want what we're proposing to do here?
Why don't we start with the originals first?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so here we have just the existing condition. I think most of us are aware of this intersection. In general, I try to avoid it as it can be confusing to go through and we have cars passing in many directions. So in the outreach meetings we had in the second meeting, we had presented to the neighborhood a couple of options. This being the first option, which just holds Oak Street as a through street and then tees up Green and then Greenwood in the two locations over here. Second option was this a little bit more serpentine route to kind of encourage traffic calming as they come through the intersection. This is the option that most of the neighborhood preferred with the addition of stop signs at the Oak and Greenwood to make this a three-way stop on this at this location over at Oak and the Greenwood intersection. The final option we had presented at that time was a roundabout option. In general, the neighborhood was more in favor of the teed up intersections with multiple stops. So we had moved forward with having a traffic study done for this option. We also included the roundabout option just to take a look at both potential layouts. From there, we have since sort of moved along the design of that second option, and are looking more at moving forward potentially with this option with the serpentine route, having a little parklet area with a pollinator garden, and teeing everything up to create create an intersection that's navigatable easily by anyone coming through and doesn't cause a lot of confusion. At this point, our next step would be to look to do a temporary layout of this intersection with our flex posts that we have from the bike path, using those to lay it out, as well as some temporary pavement markings and stop signs to kind of get an idea of how this intersection will operate and kind of get a feel for the function and make sure we can kind of identify any areas that may need improvement or just to see how it runs as a whole. So our next steps would be to do this, try to lay it out for about a month, gather, some data from how it functions, and then any feedback, use that to use it for the final design. Would be looking to potentially bid this in the winter for construction next season. But we just wanted to give you an update on where we stand with this and see if there are any thoughts on this layout, using this temporary layout.
Yeah. The only thing, just as a heads up, so the three-way intersection stop, obviously we meet the warrant for the site distance as the house, you can see the houses in the way if you're looking on Oak Street. So we definitely have a need for it. Any comments from the committee?
No, I like the design. I like
Okay.
it. I think it's going to work much better than the roundabout. Not that the roundabout wouldn't work, but I think it's too many roundabouts.
Too many roundabouts? We're just going round and round.
Yeah.
I like the serpentine design as well. I think that would calm traffic a little bit through the area. Bill, you already answered my question about the three-way stop.
I figured it was coming, Matt, so yes. Yeah.
My only comment, I wasn't sure if this is more of a concept plan or what level of design this is at, but the Green Street approach just seems a little bit abrupt, that little elbow there. So I'm just wondering if there's a way to soften that, because I think people will just end up driving over that hatching there, and that would just be a maintenance issue. So I think if that could just be smoothed out a little bit.
Sure. I appreciate the feedback.
John Connie, I love what you guys have been done with the intersection of Lowell and Salem.
Great, thank you.
The Vernon Street intersection. People at first, and New Salem and Salem as well, the people at first don't like change, but I think it's safer. You used to have to take a life in the hands if you're taking a left-hand turn off of Lowell onto Salem, because you was blindsided. So I think these kind of concepts are excellent. But thank you. You've done a great job.
Appreciate that. Thank you, John. So I think if everyone's on, do we have any comments from the public? All right, I'm not hearing any. So we'll advance this to the council just to get their blessing prior to implementing in October. So I'll be bringing this at the 22nd of September meeting. So that's the game plan. So last item we have on the agenda, a policy change discussion. So wanted to talk a little bit about some things that I'm thinking about here in the engineering office around the requests and how we get requests. So one of the things I keep hearing with our meetings that we're having is folks aren't notified of it or they don't know that it's coming. So we've started, and this happened with Melrose today, we flyered everybody to let them know that this is coming. So I'm having my staff do that to make sure that folks know. You know, I think the idea of having the neighborhood support, I think we want to tighten that up a little bit more on, you know, how they come to us. So if we're going to be notifying folks, we can't have every person that just calls us. We're running out and flyering a whole neighborhood and having a meeting on it, right? Obviously, that doesn't make a ton of sense to me. So, so I'm thinking about kind of tweaking how we're doing that. And if you folks have any suggestions on that, we're, you know, Eric and I will be working on that. I'm also looking at developing policies for the installation of RRFBs because we get a lot of requests for that. So there's some actual data and standard on that, and for crosswalks because obviously both of those have costs to the town. You know, these things aren't free. We can't just paint. You know, so we're putting major, you know, dollars into these things. I mean, these are tens of thousands of dollars, you know, not 100. So I think we'd like to have some kind of standard, you know, protocol and information around that. So, you know, I'm open to any feedback on how we do this. If you guys have some ideas on how we get there.
Yeah, and I know we've talked about the RFBs in the past multiple times and how if we just keep dropping them in everywhere, everybody is desensitized to them and their safety improvement diminishes. So I totally support developing a policy on that.
All right, so we'll take a stab at it, Matt, and I'll probably sling it your way just to give it an extra set of eyes. You know, maybe we'll have this for the October, it'll be the October or the November meeting. I'm not sure which one we'll get to. So I think we can get these policies squared away, then we can, you know, I'll bring it back to the council and get their blessing as well, and then we can move forward with it as a kind of our new standard. I think that would make a ton of sense for us.
I think some education too might be good on the town's website. Maybe I can get with Jim McDonald on that. I've seen a couple of police departments basically list out what the warrants are for stop signs and things like that. And I think a little bit of education we can direct people to. It's, you know, we can't use stop signs to slow down traffic in your neighborhood. Like, you know, it's people just don't know. They, you know, a lot of this I didn't know until I joined traffic advisory. You know, there's just there are requirements that we need to meet in order to get things done. And even if we think it's a great idea, it's some things we just can't do. So I think a little bit of education would be key, and a policy is definitely needed.
Okay, cool. I appreciate that. All right, folks. What's the end of the agenda? Anything else to cover? Just so you folks know, I've received a couple of calls on Pine Street and Lee, that whole discussion that we had before. So that will probably be coming back again. So just want to give you guys a heads up on that. And that's about all I have, unless anybody else has something to share. All right, well, here or nothing. We didn't keep it to an hour, but hour and 15 is not bad. So
not bad, not bad.
There we
Bill,
go.
do you need any summary memo from me for anything that's going to the council?
I don't think so. No, I'll just take the lead on it. We'll take care of it.
Okay.
Cool. All right. I appreciate it. All right, guys. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Terrific. All right. All right. All in favor, ayes.
All right.
I think we all want to get out of here. So there you go. Have a great weekend, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thanks.